Hey there, it's Aaron Jackson coming to you. So what I've got for you today is a masterclass around bluegrass flat picking lead guitar technique. This video is a compilation of the past 3 lessons that I've done on this channel, which were a 3-part series around foundational bluegrass lead guitar technique. I had to put this lesson together because as a teacher, I see this over and over and over again. People get into this style because of the massive wave of interest that we've seen over the past 10 years and really over the past 5 years. But when they get in, they immediately want to start learning all the hot licks. They want to learn how to play fast, how to improvise, and they want to tackle all of the hot Tony Rice and Billy Strings and Brian Sutton solos. But the problem is they haven't laid this really solid foundation. And that is what I'm going to be showing you today. If you will practice what I'm going to show you in this lesson, I promise you it is going to build you a rock solid foundation. It's going to pay huge dividends, and it is going to serve as an amazing springboard as you go through and you continue to learn, grow, and improve in this style. So this is a longer lesson. This comes in at a little over 50 minutes, but don't worry, down below the video, I've got everything organized into chapters so you can push ahead to any part of the video that you want. You can also get the tabs down in the video description and in the top pinned comment. So again, I know this lesson is going to serve you well in all of your future bluegrass flat picking endeavors. All right, enjoy. Okay, so alternate picking 16th notes. So what we're going to do on this part here, we're going to kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone because we're going to set the foundation with our technique and our timing. So in bluegrass, technique and timing are not really separate things. Think of it almost as like 2 sides of one coin. They play into each other. And in order to get a good grip on your technique, you've also got to get a good grip on your timing. So make no mistake about it, the foundational bluegrass lead guitar skill is alternate picking 16th notes. Let me say that one more time. The foundational bluegrass lead guitar skill is alternate picking 16th notes. Okay, now I know a lot of people tab bluegrass leads out as 8th notes. That's fine, but again, when we're talking about the music and where these notes fall and where these leads fall rhythmically in the music, it is as 16th notes. It is not as 8th notes, period. These are 16th note lead ideas that we play. When we're playing fiddle tunes, those are meant to be played as 16th notes. When we're playing lead breaks to vocal songs, those are primarily played as 16th notes. Now people will ask me, they'll say, Aaron, does that mean we're never going to play 8th notes or quarter notes in bluegrass lead? Not at all. Of course we'll play those, but they're mostly played as 16th notes, and if you can get a good grip on alternate picking 16th notes, whenever you come across a passage of 8th notes or quarter notes or half notes or whole notes, you'll be over-prepared to execute those ideas in an efficient manner. Okay, so let me illustrate alternate picking as 16th notes here. Okay, so I've got my little metronome clicking at 50 beats a minute. Okay. So 16th notes at this tempo, or at any tempo, are going to be 4 notes per beat. Okay, it'll go like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll do 1 E and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 3 and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 3 and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 and a 3 and a 4. So I may have been getting a little ahead of it in some places right there. That's actually a really challenging thing to do. The big picture idea there is that we play 4 notes per beat, okay? And we count that like 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and which when you're counting that out loud, it feels ridiculous. It sounds ridiculous. And you're like, gosh, I hope no one hears me saying this. It's fine though, because that's how we're going to count these 16th notes as we play those. Okay, so there's that. There's kind of the timing part of that. But now let's talk about the technique part of that. So we're going to do alternate picking on that. And alternate picking is picking down and up. But even more importantly than that, you want your downstrokes falling on certain beats and upstrokes falling on certain beats. We'll do a downstroke on beat 1. We'll do up on E. We'll do down on and, up on All right, so again, down on 1, up on E, down on and, up on Okay? That's it. That is alternate picking. 1 E and 2 And that is alternate picking. That is our alternate picking technique. And we'll stay consistent with that. Now, inevitably, people love to be like, but Aaron, what about economy picking? Or what about down, down, up picking? Or what about places where we do 2 downstrokes in a row and all that kind of stuff? They'll bring that stuff up. And we do those. You'll hear the greats of this style like Clarence White and Tony Rice. And even before them, like George Shuffler will do like, cross picking like. That's great. But that is the exception to the rule. When we're getting this stuff down, we want to focus on what we're going to be doing most of the time. We want to focus on the most important things. And the most important things is alternate picking 16th notes. Now, I've included a little graphic here that I'm going to throw up on the screen right now, okay? And it just illustrates what I'm talking about. We want downstrokes on 1, up on E, down on and, up on okay? So I've included that down in the email with the tabs and the backing tracks and all that kind of good stuff. So take that, download it, print it out, frame it, but I want you to burn that idea into your brain because it is the foundational technique of this style. So I want to give you 5 simple open string exercises here to really hammer home your alternate picking and your alternate picking as 16th notes. So example 1 will be this. We want 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 1 E and 2 and 3 E and 4. Okay, and that's just alternate picking on our open 3rd string there, okay? And our next exercise will go like this. 1 E and 2 E and 3 and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 and 4. Okay. 3rd exercise will go like this. We'll do 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. Okay. Example 4 here. We'll do 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. All right. And then example 5, we're going to do like a full-on cross-picking pattern here. And we'll do 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E. Okay. So real quick, let's talk about tone here. So when we're talking about tone, everybody wants to talk about gear. Everybody wants to talk about the guitar and the strings and the pick and all that other kind of good stuff. And people also love to talk about hand positioning and pick slanting and escape motions and rest strokes and all of this other stuff. Oh my gosh. Which is fine. I'm not knocking anybody that teaches that. But the thing about it is, with the hand positioning, you have to find what works for you. We're all wired a little bit differently. You have to figure out what works for you. But once you do that, you want to minimize the tension in your picking hand. Okay, you don't want to have a whole bunch of tension in your hand and in your shoulders and in your body. You want to relax, get that smooth sound. And then from there, now this is important. Like your pick position, relative to the bridge and to the sound hole. I like to hold my pick kind of right where the sound hole starts. I find if I go up into the sound hole, it's okay, but it just doesn't quite have the bite that I like for it to have, It just doesn't quite have the edge. But if I go too back, like toward the bridge, it's too harsh. So I like it right about where the sound hole starts. So that's a great place to keep your pick whenever you're playing this stuff. And then with all of these exercises, so you want to play these at 16th notes and you want to practice them in time. One other thing that you want to make sure that you're doing is we don't want a harsh staccato sound. We don't want... We don't want that. We want this as smooth. We want it like butter. Nice and smooth there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play these simple little picking exercises along with 2 of my favorite tools to practice my timing with. Now earlier you heard me play some of this stuff with the metronome. That's actually not my favorite tool to practice with. I like a train beat backing track and I like the strum machine. Okay, so real quick, let me play those 5 exercises along with the train beat backing track. Okay, so now I'm going to do the exact same thing, but I'm going to do it along with the strum machine this time. Okay, so I just love using those to practice my technique and my timing with this stuff. So just to kind of review real quick, remember, the foundational skill of this style is alternate picking 16th notes. You have got to get familiar with playing 4 notes per beat and having your downstrokes fall on 1 and your upstrokes falling on E and From there, you want to practice your timing. My 2 favorite tools to use are the train beat backing track and the strum machine. And from there, remember what I was saying about tone. Keep your pick kind of right about where the sound hole starts, not too far back here next to the bridge, and not too far up into the sound hole. And keep that smooth sound while you're practicing these. Not this. So as simple as these little exercises are, I promise you that spending a little bit of time every single day working on this stuff is going to be tremendously beneficial to your playing. Understanding this foundational technique of alternate picking 16th notes is going to be a tremendous value as you go through and you start jumping in to more advanced bluegrass lead guitar material. So in today's lesson, what we're going to talk about is using alternate picking in combination with hammer-ons and pull-offs. Now, this throws a lot of flat pickers off because when we're doing this, we seem to violate the fundamental rule of alternate picking, which most people think is just picking down and up all the time. It's not. Alternate picking is actually more about having your downstrokes fall on certain beats and your upstrokes fall on certain beats. Now, I would recommend, if you haven't had the chance yet, watch the first video in this series around alternate picking. I do a deep dive on that. I give you some really simple exercises to drive the point home. Now, I'm not going to reiterate that very much in today's lesson, but I do recommend checking that video out. You can check that out right here, and I will also have that linked down in the video description. So, okay, let's go ahead and jump into today's lesson. So, what I want to show you today are a couple of exercises, and I want to go ahead and start with this one right here. We're going to do... Play that again. Okay, so this is what I call the Bluegrass Scale. Now, if you've been watching this channel for any length of time, or if you've ever taken any of my online courses, or anything like that, you know that I don't approach bluegrass from a scales-based frame. Not that I don't think you should learn scales, I absolutely do. But when it comes to bluegrass, you want to think more in terms of a vocabulary and a repertoire-based approach to learning this stuff. But if somebody, was like, Aaron, is there a bluegrass scale? This is the scale I'd show it, that I would show to people. And all it is, it's a major blues scale in G that uses open strings. Okay, so anyway, but what we're going to do here, we're going to apply our alternate picking as 16th notes through this scale, okay? And that's going to go like this. We're going to do 1, E, and 2, a good ear training exercise or a good vocal exercise, sing your pick strokes through that if you're a super nerd like me. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3. That is too much fun. All right, so there's that. But again, you know, I want to bring your attention to the pick strokes. And like I was saying, and like I covered in the first video in this series, our downstrokes are falling on our downbeat and our upstrokes are falling on E and because that's how we count 16th notes, 1 E and a. So one more time, I'll do it real slow here. 1 E and 2 and 3 and 4 E and 1 E and 2 and okay. So real quick, now that I've played our little bluegrass scale using all picked notes and using alternate picking as 16th notes, what I want to do is just play it along with a little train beat backing track. This is not fast. This is at about 80 beats per minute, but I wanted to do that just to give it a little bit of rhythmic context. Okay, so that'll sound like this. So that's how those pick strokes are falling, and they're falling exactly where they need to be. Downstrokes on downbeats and ands, upstrokes on E and Okay, but now what we want to do is we're going to play that, but this time I'm going to, instead of just using straight picked notes, I'm going to use a combination of hammer-ons and pull-offs, and that's going to go like this. Okay, so let me play that one more time here for you. Okay, so let me do that, and I want to count it out here. 1 what I hope that you're seeing is that those pick strokes fell in the exact same place. All I did was when I was using hammer-ons or pull-offs, I would just leave the pick stroke out. That's it. That's it. The pick strokes are falling in the exact same place. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3. They're falling in the exact same place that they did in the previous example where we used all pick notes. But what throws people for a loop is when you start doing those, that results in you doing sometimes 2 downstrokes in a row or 2 upstrokes in a row. Like right here. 1 E and 2. We did 2 downstrokes. Okay, but that's not breaking the alternate picking rule. That is the alternate picking rule. Down, up, down, hammer, down. 1 E and because that's an right there. So normally we would have hit that with an upstroke, but we did a hammer-on right there. And then now our next note falls on 2, I think 1 E and 2, which is a downbeat, which is we want to hit that with a downstroke. Are you seeing how this works? It's such a simple idea. It's really simple. It really is. But the execution of it is kind of challenging, and it takes it a while for this to become a habit. But anyway, let me go through the rest of it. 1 E and 2 E and 3. All right. So right there on that little hammer-on, 3. So that hammer-on comes in on a downbeat. We normally would have hit that with a downstroke, but we did it with a hammer-on. And so now that next note is an upstroke. So we did like 2 upstrokes in a row. Okay, but again, that's not breaking the alternate picking rule. That is the alternate picking rule. Okay. So we'll do 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. All right, so now we're going to come back down. We're going to do 4 E and so 4 E. We did a pull-off on E, 4, E, and so like 2 downstrokes in a row. Because on that E, we would have done an upstroke. But we did a pull-off right there. So 4, E, and 1, E, and 2, E, and 3. Okay? I hope you can see what we're doing right there. The pick strokes are falling exactly where they need to fall. Just when we do hammer-ons or pull-offs, we end up leaving those pick strokes out, which results in doing 2 downstrokes in a row or 2 upstrokes in a row. And a lot of people think that's breaking the alternate picking rule, but it's not, because the more important idea in alternate picking is having your downstrokes fall on downbeat and your upstrokes falling on E and So one more time, all the way through this, using hammer-ons and pull-offs. So we'll do 1, E, and 2, So like I did with the other example with all picked notes here, let's hear that example played at about 80 beats per minute along with the train beat backing track to give it a little rhythmic context. Okay, so I want to give you one more exercise here. This one's really simple, but it's going to drive the same point home. So all we're going to do is this. We're going to do... So we're just doing open, 1, 2, and 3 on all of the strings and then coming back down. We're picking these as 16th notes and doing straight alternate picking through it. We're going 1, E, and 2, E, and 3, E, and 4, E, and 1, E, and 2, E, and 3, E, and 4, E, and 1, E, and 2, E, and 3, E, and 4, E, and... Okay, so that's just straight alternate picking there. And, our pick strokes are falling where they need to. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to do the same thing, but when we go from the 2nd fret to the 3rd fret on each of these strings, I'm going to do a hammer-on instead of picking that. It's going to go like this. 1, E, and 2, E, and 3, E, and 4, E, and 1, E, and 2, E, and... Okay? And again, that results in... we end up doing 2 downstrokes in a row as we switch strings. Okay, but that's exactly what we need to be doing. Now when we come back down, we'll do... the way that's going to work is we'll do 1, E, and 2, E, and 3, E, and... So we're doing 3, pulling off on and then coming over here on 3, E, and All right, so again, that results in 3, E, and 3, E, and we end up doing 2 upstrokes in a row. 3, E, and 4, E, and 1, E, and 2, okay. Again, on the descending part, we end up doing 2 upstrokes in a row. But again, that's not breaking our alternate picking rule. That is the alternate picking rule. Okay, so one more time, going through this little exercise using hammer-ons and pull-offs, we'll do 1, and 2, So again, pick strokes are falling right where they need to. So, as I did with the other example here, let me play those along with a train beat backing track. This is not very fast. This is at about 80 beats per minute. And I'll play it with all picked notes, and I'll play it with a combination of hammer-ons and pull-offs to give it a little rhythmic context here. So what I've shown you today is so important. It throws so many people off. I'll see people that jump in and they're wanting to learn Billy strings and Tony Rice solos or fiddle tunes, and their technique is stuck. And then they come to me, they're like, "Man, Aaron, I've been binge watching videos on pick slanting and hand positioning, and I think that's my problem, is I'm not holding my pick right." All of that kind of stuff. But really what it is they don't have their pick strokes really dialed in to where they're falling where they need to fall rhythmically to really be able to play these ideas the way that they want to be able to play them. But here's the thing. If you'll just practice the hell out of the exercises that I have shown you today, just really practice this stuff, get it down, get it to that level of muscle memory, get it to where it becomes a habit, I promise you that's going to make an amazing foundation in your playing, and it's going to make learning the rest of this style so much easier. I see so many students of this style skip over this stuff, and it causes problems as they're trying to improve. But get this stuff down, understand it, and then just practice the snot out of these exercises here, and I promise you it's gonna pay you big dividends. Today I'm going to be showing you how to optimize your fretting hand for bluegrass flat picking lead guitar. Doing this is going to make your leads sound much cleaner, smoother, faster, and it's going to give your playing a much better tone. In this style, the picking hand gets most of the attention for good reason, because this style requires just about more out of your picking hand than almost any other style does. But we do not, and I repeat, do not want to neglect our left hand. It's extremely important, and having a strong fretting hand in bluegrass lead guitar is something that you absolutely want to strive for. This video is a part 3 around foundational bluegrass flat picking lead guitar techniques that I've been wanting to do for a long time. And the reason is I get so many people coming to me wanting to learn this style, and they immediately jump in and they want to tackle Tony Rice and Billy strings and Doc Watson and Brian Sutton solos, or they want to get a bunch of hot licks under their belt, or they want to build speed or learn how to improvise and all of that kind of good stuff, which is all great, but they haven't set the foundation here, and they keep getting stuck. But getting this foundational stuff is going to give you just that. It's going to give you a solid foundation for which you can build and you can learn this style of guitar playing. So as is always the case with my lessons, you can get the tabs for this down in the video description and in the top pinned comment. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to give you 3 ideas to be thinking about, and I'm going to give you simple exercises for practicing each one of the ideas. And if you will stay till the end, I'm going to show you my very favorite fretting hand exercise that I use every day to keep my left hand fingers in really good shape. Okay, so idea number 1 here. Place your fretting hand fingers at the bottom of the frets and not the top. Let me say that again. Place your fretting hand fingers at the bottom of the frets and not the top. So real quick, I'll just demonstrate that real quick. So let's say I'm just going to play the open 6th string, and then I'm going to play the 2nd fret, and then I'm going to play the 3rd fret, okay? So the top of those frets would be right here if I did my fingers like this. Right here for the 2nd fret, and right here for the 3rd fret, okay? Okay, so that would be the top of the fret. That is the wrong way to do it. Here is the correct way to do it. Do you hear how much cleaner and how much more full that sounds? I know it's kind of crazy because it really is such a short distance. But man, it makes a world of difference. So that the kind of the bottom of the fret is the sweet spot of the fret. Now, you don't want to be like on the bar. Like if I'm playing the 2nd fret here, I don't want to be up on the bar that starts the 3rd fret. I don't want to be fretting that. That's not going to work, but kind of like right above it. For the 2nd fret, that's the sweet spot of the fret. So one more time, this is the top of the 2nd fret, which sucks. And then this, that sweet spot of the fret there. So right here, here, and here. So that's what we want to do. And you want to stay consistent with that, even if you're up here on the higher frets, you know. Even though the fret's a whole lot smaller and there's not nearly as much area, but still with that, top of that 10th fret, bottom of that 10th fret, okay? So here is a simple exercise. I've used this before in this little foundational series, but I want to use it again here. And all we're going to do is we're going to play each string. We're going to do open, 1st fret, 2nd fret, 3rd fret. We're going to play this as 16th notes. But again, the idea there, get up to the bottom of those frets. Don't be in the top, okay? So this exercise will just go like, we'll just do. And then let's come back down. And what you want to be focusing on there is the placement of your left hand fingers on the frets. And we want to, again, get to the bottom of the fret, not on the bar that starts the 2nd fret, but kind of right above that. Just that nice full tone. Don't want this. Hear how much that sucks? I don't really know another way to phrase it. I mean, it sounds bad. You get a lot of fret buzz, but the notes just aren't nearly as full as they are up toward the bottom of the fret. So one more time here. And just keep those fretting fingers as close to the bottom of those frets as you can. So that's idea number 1 there. Again, remember, place your fretting hand fingers toward the bottom of the frets, not the top. Okay, so idea number 2, try and make your hammer-ons and pull-offs as loud and clean and full as picked notes. Let me say that again. Try and make your hammer-ons and pull-offs as loud and clean and full as picked notes. So I first learned this from Brian Sutton. So I first got into this style, I think it was the early 2000s. And, Brian had, been on the scene for a little bit. He started playing in Ricky Skaggs' band in the 90s. And then by this point, he had gone on and, he was touring with, Jerry Douglas and doing some other gigs like that. But he was doing a lot of session work. He'd released his first couple of solo albums. And it was just astonishing. I mean, just a lot of people had never heard anybody play like an acoustic guitar like as fast and as powerful as he was playing it. And make no mistake about it, Brian has a terrifyingly fast and clean picking hand. But what I would do is I would just have to, get magazine subscriptions and look up articles to try and, get his thoughts around some of this stuff. And one of the things he really talked about was the left hand and trying to make his hammer-ons and pull-offs and all of that kind of stuff sound as loud and clean as picked notes. So here's just a couple of little exercises I want to show you here. Let's start with this one here. We're going to do... Okay, so that's a very simple idea right there. So we're taking the open string and we're playing the open string, and then on the ascension we're doing hammer-ons to the 2nd fret. And then as we come down, we're doing a pull-off from the 2nd fret to the open string. Okay, now at the beginning there, Take My Breath Away, Top Gun. So if you weren't hearing that before, you'll definitely hear it now. But anyway, that's just kind of a side tangent there. But what we want to do as we're going through and doing that, we want to make those hammer-ons, try and make it sound as clean as a picked note. Now, we're not going to get there because there's just not as much physical force that's hitting the string as there would be if we were picking it. But to the extent that you can try to do that, your hammer-ons and pull-offs are going to sound really clean, really powerful. Now, on the pull-offs, here's kind of like a sub-secret here. When you're doing a pull-off, so my finger, when I'm doing that, is I'm pulling it off, but it's like moving like down toward the ground, okay? And not like out, like toward the wall, okay? So remember, with pull-offs, down toward the ground, not kind of off of the string toward the wall. Do you hear the difference? So here's down toward the ground, and here's up toward the wall. So different. It's so much more powerful that way. Okay? So, and then try to do that on the other strings. Again, down to the ground. Okay? And that's going to take some practice if you're not used to doing pull-offs that way. But you can really, to kind of get a grip on that, maybe just start with the first string and the second string. Because once we kind of start getting down here, you know, but that's what you want to go for. When to get those pull-offs sounding nice and loud and clean, you want to pull down toward the ground, not like off of the string toward the wall. So that's one way to do it. Just open string to the second fret, doing hammer-ons on the ascension, pull-offs on the descension. Just one other way to do that, though, here. You know, and obviously we could go through and do like a combination of all of our left-hand fingers here. I'm going to spare you that for right now. But what I do want to do, just to get familiar with doing hammer-ons and pull-offs, like from on fretted notes, index finger to ring finger. Let's do this. So simple idea, we're just going to hammer on from the first fret to the third fret on the ascension. And then from the third fret to the first fret on the descension. Okay, and again, when you're doing those pull-offs, again, try to pull that finger down toward the ground. Not like up toward the wall. Okay, and then when you're doing the hammer-ons there, especially now that we're working with two fretted notes, when you do the hammer-on, don't lift your pointer finger up. Don't go, just because we don't need to right there. Just leave it where it is. That's going to give your playing and your hammer-ons more resonance. And then, okay. That was idea number 2 there, which is try and make your hammer-ons and pull-offs sound as loud and clean as a picked note would. Okay, let's go into idea number 3. All right, idea number 3, avoid the air dancer fingers. Let me say that again. Avoid the air dancer fingers. Aaron, what the heck is an air dancer? You've all seen it if you've ever driven by your local car dealership and they've got the real big, tall, inflatable balloon man that's out there like doing this, like woo, back and forth, doing that. That's the air dancer. That's the tube man. That's the balloon man. And what I see with a lot of students whenever they're going through and they're playing leads is their fingers are all like an individual air dancer, tube man. Their fretting hand looks like this. Do you see how much unnecessary motion that is there? It's like every single one of those fingers looks like a daggum air dancer. It looks like a tube man. It looks like the balloon man in front of your local car dealership. Okay, so how do we avoid that? So I'm going to reference the first exercise that I showed you in this video where we do the open string, first, second, third frets. We do that going up, coming down. Now, on that first idea, I was having you emphasize the placement of your fretting hand fingers. For this one, I want you to think about it like this. Do not move any finger unless you absolutely have to. Okay, so on the Ascension, that'll look like this. So do you see how when I get to that third fret, my middle finger and ring finger are still where they were? And I only move that when I get to the next string. Okay, I'm not doing this. That results in a very staccato, choppy sound that we don't want. Just leave those fingers down until you absolutely have to move them. And whenever I'm playing that, I've got my hand just kind of positioned right above it where they're all kind of ready to fall in place. Now, the dissension is going to be a little bit different because whenever we're doing that, we do have to lift up our fingers in order to make the next note sound. Okay? That second fret is not going to sound if I go... That'll work on the Ascension. It doesn't work on the dissension, but you still want to minimize your finger motion. On the Ascension, do not move any finger unless you absolutely have to. And then on the Descension, we do have to move the fingers more, but again, that's what we want. We don't want air dancer fingers, balloon man fingers. The master of this was Tony Rice. It was weird watching him to a certain extent because he would be playing these unbelievably fast, clean, and smooth ideas. But when you watched his left hand, a lot of times, sometimes it would, but a lot of times it didn't look like it was moving that much. You see how that works? You see how that works? There's no wasted motion. And that's how he sounded so smooth and so clean and so fast and had such good tone, is because he absolutely optimized his left hand to sound that way and to minimize and get rid of any unnecessary motion. So there we have it there. There's 3 fretting hand ideas and some simple exercises to accompany those. Number 1, make sure your fretting hand fingers are at the bottom of the frets and not at the top. Number 2, try to make your hammer-ons and pull-offs sound as loud, as clean, and as full as picked notes. And then number 3, avoid the air dancer balloon man fingers because it results in a bunch of wasted motion that makes your leads sound choppy. So, okay, I promised you a bonus exercise here at the end that I love and I use every single day. So I'm going to go ahead and show it to you here now. I'll show you what it is and then I'll show you how to practice it here. So, okay, this idea originally comes from Steve Vai. So I'm sure you know who Steve Vai is, but in case you don't, he's probably the baddest of all the rock shredders and just has a terrifying left hand. He'll do these ideas where he'll like hold the neck of his guitar like this and then you know, all of that kind of crazy stuff there, that kind of legato thing. But this is an exercise that I think he originally published in like Guitar Player magazine back in the 80s. And here's what we're going to do. Put your pointer finger on the 5th fret of the 1st string. And what we're going to do a hammer-on and a pull-off with your ring finger. Just like that. And we want to do it continuously for, we'll say 30 seconds, okay? So do that for 30 seconds. Now switch to your middle finger. And do that for the same amount of time. Now switch to your pinky finger up here on the 8th fret. Again, 30 seconds. Now we're going to put middle finger on the 6th fret, ring finger on the 7th. Let's do that, 30 seconds. And then come up here with your pinky finger. Ooh, we are on fire. All right, and then we're going to do one more, and then put your ring finger right here and do a hammer on it to pull off between your ring finger and pinky, okay? So the point of that is you want to be continuous. You don't want to do this and then stop, and then do this and then stop, and then do this. You want to do it continuous. Now, if 30 seconds is too much, do it for 10 seconds on each one. Now, I think Steve Vai originally recommended doing it for a minute. That's what I try to do, except when I get to like this one right here and this one, I do those for 30 seconds. So you just find what works for you, but the big picture thing there is with that is that you want to do it continuously, whether that's 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, but you want to do that continuously. And then add that to your practice routine and do that every day, and I promise you it will whip your fretting hand into shape. So I want to thank you so much for hanging out today. Again, you do not want to neglect your fretting hand when it comes to bluegrass, flat pick, and lead guitar. But doing this in combination with, having a really strong picking hand is going to result in some amazing sounding bluegrass leads. Remember, you can get the tabs for this lesson down in the video description and in the top pinned comment as always. Thank you for hanging out, and I will see you next time.